I have made. So again, also I'm happy to be able to connect um, on Zoom to have this evening and this Saturday and Sunday. As usual, I would like to start with the motivations, okay? Because even you don't get anything out of these sessions, at least with your motivation, your time is being meaningful through the power of your own intention motivations. So before that, just try to watch your breath mindfully for a few moments to quiet and settle down your mind. Then we can try to reflect, contemplate, and think by all of us coming here together, giving our precious time, energy, by gathering together. May all of this become cause and conditions to subdue and transform our mind so that we can reduce those disturbing negative emotions and become a cause and condition to cultivate and increase all those helpful, positive thoughts, emotions, mind. And may it be cause and condition to gradually achieve our own highest potential, fully awakened state. So we can be greatest help, benefit to all sentient beings, including oneself. Okay, so then we can do the refuge in Bodhicitta. Praise. Okay, if you can read, yeah. We can do the short mandala and then refuge. Okay. 사시베기 중심에도 더마베라레지 인데겐바니 상계신루 미대 우아이 요군 나마다 신라 죄바라쇼 이담 그라나 만다라가니야타야미. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigrated beings. Sangye chodang choge chonam la chanchu patu dane chasuje dagi shushu gibe sonam gi dola penje sangye dupash. Sangye chodang choge chonam la chanchu patu dane chasuje dagi shushu gibe sonam gi dola penje sangye dupash. So again, welcome everyone. And as you are aware, the topic of today evening is how we can use visualizations to develop concentrations. First of all, visualizations, meditations is found in the Mahayana and especially in Vajrayana very often. The visualization meditations you find in both Mahayana and more so in Vajrayana. And of course, when we engage in the practice of visualization meditations, of course, there are many different purpose and different visualizations. Sometimes you visualize the Buddha in front of you. Sometimes in Vajrayana, sometimes you visualize yourself as the Buddha, the deity, especially when you are taking, if you have the initiations in relation to that deity and what we call self-generations, and visualizing in front of you what we call front generations. So there are those visualizations, practice of meditations. And together with visualization, then we sometimes, a lot of time, we also use the recitation of the mantras of the Buddha as well as part of those practices. And among those visualizations, of course, when we visualize, in front of you, so that when you have this image of the Buddha, for ordinary beings, for a more advanced, highly advanced practitioner, whether it is the image, whether you can visualize, not visualize, their refuge, their faith is strong. Whether you visualize or not, for ordinary beings, if you have that image of that Buddha, then it helps us to get more inspirations. It helps us to get more inspirations, inspire more us, by seeing the presence of the Buddha through your own visualization, they're feeling the presence of the Buddha through that visualizations can make a difference in terms of, feeling more close. It's like meeting a person's, it's like someone you have heard about it, but you have never met. And then when you meet it, persons, there's a difference. Similarly, even we are not meeting in person at the moment, but just having that image and visualizing that can inspire a practitioner to have a strong inspiration, strong refuge, strong faith. It helps in that way. So that is why some will use visualization and also when you feel the presence of that and real being there through your visualizing so strongly, again, and then other practices that we engage in relation to creating positive energies, positive potential energies. Sometimes we call it merit, or in terms of when we try to do the purification practice in relation that those power practice become more powerful because we have that strong image of that enlightened being in front of us as that it's like you are in front of His Holiness Dalai Lama in persons. When you are in front of you, like someone like Dalai Lama, and when you are in there, when you do practice, your practice by the presence of that in that practice, it really can make difference than when you are not in His presence. Similarly, through those visualizations, when you have that visualization and the more clear visualizations, the more stronger you feel the presence of them through those practice of visualization, then it can help. So it is a technique, is a way of technique to develop our own inner realizations, our inner mind, as I said, such as your refuge can be much more stronger. Your faith, devotion can be much more stronger through that. And whatever practice you do in relation to that can be much more stronger because of that. So we use that, and you see. And also when one use, visualization as oneself as the deity in the sub-generations, it is also to be aware of our potentials. This is something, we have this potential that we, at the moment, the Buddha that we inspire so much, and we have so much faith to, and which we have been strong inspirations. You can become that Buddha yourself. You have the full potential, and you are already started to think what it is to be that Buddha. It's like, someone, imagining that they are winning the game and celebrating, what it is like to win the game and what it is like to be in that podium and celebrate, and that potential. When you have that imagination and that belief, then it gives you again much more enthusiasm in your practice, much more, because you see the potential of being that. And so again, that is one purpose of that is, again, such visualizations is to really inspire our mind and develop strong enthusiasm in our practice by understanding, actually, I can achieve this Buddha and I can become that. It's like you have already, it is almost like you are seeing the result of your practice. You are already experiencing the result of the practice, what it is like to be, when you achieve that result of your practice. So therefore, again, it gives a lot of those inspirations, enthusiasms, strong confidence, all of that, And also when you are doing that such practice, it also becomes antidotes towards our self-pity minds, self-hatred, self-hatred self-loathing, self-pity, that way we feel for ourselves. I'm not good enough all the time, I'm full of mistake, um, I'm full, I'm such a bad person, I'm such a bad parent, bad children, bad students, I'm such a bad practitioner, all this kind of feeling that we have towards ourselves, because all we see is fault in ourselves. So when we do that visualization as a self generation, you see the perfect of yourself. And when you are able to see the perfect of yourself, that's free from all this mistake and fault and everything, then you have less that kind of self-pity, self-loathing, self-hatred, and all of that. So again, there are many positive outcomes from those different visualization practice, on practical level as well as on spiritual level, And then of course, also is to help to develop concentration as well, um, to develop concentrations. So that is a little bit on general the visualizations, then using that as a object for the concentration. Maybe that is where today I want to talk about that. Of course, to develop Kamabhadang Shamatha meditative concentration, you can use different objects, the object of meditation for developing meditative concentration, Shamatha, Kamabhadang, it can be external object, it can be internal objects. External object, the breath can be your object of concentrations, your movement of abdomen can be, or you can even visualize or imagine a candle, flower, all Buddha's image in here, So all internal objects, it can be the nature of your mind, can be the object of your concentration, Even with that, what you call relative nature of the mind or ultimate nature of the mind, either of them can be an object of concentration as well. So, or you can use loving kindness, compassion as the objects of concentration as well. So in terms of object, it can be any objects. But in the Mahayana's teachings, they recommend the the image of the Buddha as the object of concentrations. Especially in Mahayana teaching is very much recommended that. And it has much more, when you use that, you can not only develop meditative concentration, but there are many other benefit byproduct of that. Many others extra byproduct of that. And so that is why. So in relation to that, if I read from King of Concentration Sutras, where Buddha explain about that, using that objects, there, let's say, the Bodhisattvas is concentrated when his mind is engaged in the meditative object. That is the golden body of the beautiful protector of the world. So here the Buddha is saying, the Bodhisattvas concentrate on the beautiful image of the Buddhas, the protector of the world, the Buddhas. So here, giving that object of the Buddha's image, Buddha as the object. Then in relation to that, in Kamalashila, one of the great Indian masters, around seven centuries, He was the main disciple of Shantirakshita, both of them great Nalanda masters. And Shantirakshita, at his time, was one of the greatest Indian scholar master in Nalanda, who was invited to Tibet and who established the Buddhism in Tibet. And then after Shantirakshita passed away, Kamaleshila also came in Tibet, and he wrote the Stages of Meditations, 3 volumes, first, middle, and so again, very highly, all these masters are very highly developed and enlightened masters, and highly respected in the Indian Nalanda, the great university, monastic university. So in his also in his stages of the meditation, he also taught that he should fix his mind on the body of Buddha as he has seen it or heard it described. So here he's saying when you try to develop concentration, you use the Buddha's image. Either you might have seen it because you saw the statues, you saw the Thanga, the pictures, or even you haven't seen it, maybe a teacher describe you how the Buddhas look like, what are his how he looks like, what are his posture, what are his color, all of that. So even you have not seen according to as is described. So by that, then using that as a object of meditation for concentrations. Another great, again, Nalanda masters, Acharya Ashvagosha, he also recommend the same thing. Be firm in your contemplations. Always use one visualizations. With many visualization and sensations, your mind will be excited by the delusions. So again, here he also talked about using the Buddha's image as the object of the concentrations. So these are some of the sources. There are many sources in Mahayana's teaching, Sutra and later masters, that where they recommend using the object of the Buddha's image as the object of concentrations. Okay. In most of the mindfulness sutras and meditations, of course, then those are more kind of common for both Mahayana and non-Mahayana. So then the object is mostly breath and other objects. But in Mahayana's teachings, sutra as well as the commentary, they recommend that. And you also see in later commentary by Tibetan masters, the Lamrim and all of them, also they suggest and recommend using the Buddha's image as a object for meditations, concentrations. Okay. So when we're using the Buddha's image as the object of concentrations, as a meditative concentrations, unlike like many other visualization where we visualize in front of us, above your crown, or you're visualizing yourself as a deity, when you are really trying to develop meditative concentrations specifically, that then you try to visualize in front of you, not above you, but in front of you. And if you are looking straight, where you can see straight, so not too high, but like if you are just looking there straight, is like where is height is like your eyesight, straight. If you look your eye with straight, then that is where you think you can see that. In terms of that distant, maybe distant can be 2 meters, or a little bit closer, depending on individual. In terms of the size, they say size, like 4 inches. Not too big, not too small. But 4 inches is not fixed, it can be a little bigger, depending on individuals. All of these are they are not kind of concrete and fixed. It has to be exactly like that, in terms of size, in terms of distance, in terms of height, all, these are just some of the, advice suggestions, but they can be changed a little bit according to individuals, so that is one thing. And when you visualize the Buddha for your meditative concentrations, you try to visualize is not like a statue, concrete, solid, but more like rainbow body, light body. Okay, that is one thing. When you visualize it's a light body, it helps you to overcome dullness, laxity. The light, when it's light, when it's bright, when you visualize, imagine something as more light, bright, it helps you to be more awake, less dull, less sleepy, less dull. So it helps to reduce the dullness, the laxity. While it's light, but it is not like so, what do you call, so light that like the feather where the wind blow here and there, easily, but it's very heavy, like it's a person, so it doesn't move. If the image started to move, your mind started to move, and then it is hard to have the stability and concentration. So what you want to visualize and imagine is something very stable, okay, light but very stable and alive, not like a statue, but like a real being, alive, and as is described, the Buddha is has all these whole lights hollow around him, similar like that, with a lot of lights, but it's very stable, very stable. That is one thing, and not like a statue, like a kind of not alive or not beings, but is actually like Buddha actually is there, and not like a flight, like in pictures, but like do you say 3-dimensional, like actual persons, 3-dimensional, not like a flight, So those are some things that we try to be aware when you are using that. And another thing that to remember is you can keep, with the statues or pictures of the Buddha whom you are using as a object for your concentration in front of you. At the very beginning, you look at it and then you try to imagine that without looking at it. Try to build that. But then when you sometimes lose your image or not clearly, then again you look at the pictures or the statues, and then again without looking at it. And slowly, then you don't have to look anymore, because you are so clear in your mind. If you think of burger, you don't have to look at the picture now, do you think? Burger? The image of the burgers come in your mind? So similarly, that's something that you have looked so many times that that image comes in your mind more clearly, even when you are not looking. But at the very beginning, someone who doesn't have clear what it looks like, then it can be looking at it and then visualizing and imagine holding that object image without looking at it, and slowly, that is how we build up, So that are the few things that we are using for material concentrations, that. And as this master says, when you are using it for material concentration, you don't change the image of Buddha. You try to keep same image, same Buddha all the time. It's not like you one day you use the Buddha Shakyamuni, or after 1 week or 1 month you use medicine Buddha, or maybe after a few months you use Cheresik or Menjushiri, whatever. If you want to really develop meditative concentration, shamatha, by using that, you try to keep same image until you develop that concentration, that shamatha. You choose whatever you want to choose at the very beginning, and then try to keep. If you keep on changing too much, as the master says, with many visualization cessation, your mind will be excited by delusions. You wouldn't be able to develop stability and concentrations. So using one same image is important. Another important factors. Of course, if you are using visualizing with different purpose, that is another thing. Okay, when you are doing different practice, relation different Buddhas and that. But if you are using for meditative concentration, shamatha, then that is what we are talking about here. Using the Buddha's image as the object of material concentration for that. And also, another factor is if you have been, let's say, meditating using the Buddha Shakyamuni, which is sitting in posture, you don't change again the color or the posture again, always same posture, always same color. Even with the same Buddha, if your mind started to feel different colors, different positions, then again, that is distractions. Your mind is being excited or distracted. So again, you try to bring back to the same positions and same color that you want. So those another things at the very beginning of when you are trying to develop concentration at the very beginning, later you don't need. At the very beginning, you go through all the details, okay? From the crown to the feet, Imagine there is the Ushnisha, the crown, and the curly hairs, dark blues, and then the face, long ears, and small kind of narrow eyes, slightly open, slightly closed, and looking with that compassion eyes, smiling, slightly smiling, and then through the neck, and then hands, that hands posture, whether you want to see both hand in meditative posture or as normally, the right hand in the earth touching mudra, left hand in meditative posture, holding the bowl, and then with the robes, that color of the robes, and the sitting posture, the vasta. So you go through all the details, It's like scanning, like you scan and go very details from the top to the down at the very beginning one time. Once you have done that, scan through the detail, then you have general image. Then you just try to concentrate on that general image without going into details. So even though there is no clarity with the details, you might have just vague, at the very beginning, you might have just a vague kind of shape of the Buddha, okay? Even the color might not be so clear. Even it is not so yellowish that you would like to see it. And even you don't see each of details, the eyes, nose, all of that, but you have the general image of that, you know. Like I think sometimes some people have blind problem and then they can just see the shape. They cannot see the details, but they can they can see the shape of the persons. So they know it is a person's, you know. There's some people who are dealing with certain level of blind, that is that, or not fully blind, but there's blind in a way that they cannot see all details, but they can see the shape of the persons. And like that. Similarly, you know, you might just be able to have the image of the Buddha, general image of the Buddha, just almost like shape, but without any details. And if you're trying to develop samatha on base, then the advice is just try to keep that image, even if it is not clear. Just hold that image. Even there's no clarity, that's good enough at the very beginning. If you go too details, then your mind gets distracted. So you cannot develop stability. And clarity will come slowly, slowly. You know, and each session, when you do that, you can go through those details at the very beginning of the sessions. After you have gone through all the details, then you just try to keep the image, even though you cannot see the details as you like that you went before. Even there is no details, clarity of how is details of the eyes, nose, everything, but you just have general image and just try to hold that general image. And that is good enough at the very beginning. Because to develop shamatha or meditate concentration, we need two qualities: stability, stillness, you know, stability or stillness that is not kind of distracted, excited, to be able to hold the objects, you know, without your mind getting distracted, excited, or even sometimes even we are not excited or distracted, but our mind is ready to get distracted. Not even having that, you know, your mind is totally still with that objects. Stability, stillness with objects. That is one quality. Another quality that we need to develop such shamatha, kama, vitamin concentration is clarity in your mind, you know. And clarity is the one thing, another qualities, you know. And so those both quality does not come immediately at the very beginning. So first you try to develop the stillness, the stability, and then slowly the clarity will come. And you can focus on clarity slowly, and it will also come more easily with the time. And then Lama Tsongkhapa, one of the uniqueness of Lama Tsongkhapa is then, you know, not only you need clarity and stability, stillness, but your mind need to have intensity, alertness. That is one thing. In Tibetan, we call it ngar, senji ngar, you know, because sometimes you might have clarity and you might have stability, but you might not have that strong intensity, alertness. If you don't have that, then it could be the more subtle laxity and not true concentrations or shamatha or kama abiding. So those three qualities are needed to develop, to become real meditative concentration, shamatha, or kama abiding. Those three qualities. And this particular third qualities is, you know, you don't find that in many of the others' writings, you know, but that is very strongly clarified and mentioned by Lama Tsongkhapa. That is one of the, again, another great contributions of Lama Tsongkhapa's in clear, that kind of clarity, which you don't find in many others writings, teachings. So those are three qualities that we need to have to develop meditation concentration shamatha. So, but as I mentioned at the very beginning, is to develop the stability, the stillness, your mind unmoved from the objects. Your mind is fully with the objects of here, the Buddha's image, and so to develop that stillness, unmovable, that kind of stability, then even there's no clarity, you don't have to worry about that at the very beginning. Just try to hold that general, not so clear, but you have the general image of the Buddha, and just try to hold that as your object of meditation without losing that, without getting distracted, and just try to hold that. So that is another advice, important advice, because sometimes, I cannot see clearly. So then you might try to want to have more clarity. And so then that means you try to go more details. And if you go in more details, then again, you lose that stability. And therefore, you can never find the stability, the stillness. And so that is where at the very beginning, in our meditation or concentration, using the Buddha's image, that is the advice. And as I mentioned, in every sessions, beginning of every session, you go through the details, scanning, and then without going detail, you just how many, about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, how many minutes you try to meditate on. Just try to keep that image of the Buddha in your mind, holding as the object of meditative concentrations, without not worrying about the details and clarity. Okay. Once you are able to develop that stability, that stillness, that steadiness, then you can again slowly, focus on the clarity. So like many practices, within the one practice, there are many different qualities that we need to develop. And you cannot develop all of them at the same time. You develop one qualities, and then slowly, once you have developed that quality, then you focus on the other ones. And then slowly you have all those qualities together. So similarly here, first you focus on the steadiness, the stabilities, the stillness, and then we can, as you get good at that, then one can focus on the clarity of the objects in your mind, so those are some of the advice. And again, when we are trying to develop any kind of meditative concentrations, shamatha, kamma, I think if you are trying to practice to develop those, the advice is always, have a short session, many sessions at the very beginning. As many sessions as possible, but short sessions. In some of the Lamrim, they advise like 18 sessions. Of course, this is just a number, it can be more, it can be less, but just to mention that how many sessions. So 5 minutes of 18 maybe, and slowly 10 minutes of 10 sessions. And then slowly, 8 sessions of 15 minutes. And like that, you start short session, but many sessions at the very beginning. And as you get better at that, then slowly you extend the duration of your session and you reduce number of the sessions. gradually, slowly. Because at the very beginning, if we try to do long sessions, because our mind is not strong, our concentration not strong, our mind can get distracted within that sessions easily. Either we get distracted or whether we get kind of dull and laxity, fall in one of them. And then we try to meditate with that kind of distractions or laxity, and then that become our habit in our mind. Then every time you sit, then your mind starts to get distracted or laxity because your mind get kind of habit into that, and that is why some people say, when they sit, then all the thoughts comes. When they are not sitting on cushion, thought doesn't come. They are planning something, and when they are trying to plan something without on meditation cushion, they cannot come up with good ideas, good plan. The moment they sit on meditation cushions, all this started to come boom, 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 because of that. So therefore, of course, in some cases, you are just being noticing. That is one thing. It is as it is said in the 9 stages of the meditations. In the first stages, of course, it is possible sometimes in the first stages. It's not there's more thought, but now you are being more aware of those thoughts. So therefore, you feel like there's more thought. But it's not there because there's more thought. Normally, there's a lot of thought. We are not aware. But when you are trying to meditate to develop concentration in that way, then you are being more aware. Then we might feel there is more thought than normal. So that could be also the cases, But also our mind also, follow that kind of habit. So therefore, from the very beginning, we try to create good mental habit. So for 5 minutes or even 2-3 minutes, we might be more successful to meditate 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes without distraction and without laxity. We are more likely to have better result in that short period. And once you have done many sessions each day with that, and then your mind has become more habit in that, and also you are more familiarity with that, and then slowly, you can extend from 5 to 7 minutes or 10 minutes, not expanding immediately 20 minutes or half hours, and gradually. In that way, we are going to have more likely to more success in what we are trying to achieve than trying to move too fast. From 5 minutes now I want to do half hours or 15 minutes immediately. And if we do that, there might be 1 or 2 days when you might be able to do well, but most time maybe we might not be able to do that. So instead, we want to be consistent. Every time we do that is consistent, you are able to have good meditation, good practice. And to do that, then it's better for the beginner, for us, where we don't have strong practice. Short sessions, many sessions. That is the advice. Many sessions, short sessions. And with that, then it's short, but you have quality. You have qualities, meditations. Your meditation has quality, good meditation, good practice, instead of doing longer and without good qualities, So short session, many sessions. So that is one of the advice in terms of the durations, And then gradually, as we get better and gradually, expanding the durations. And then slowly, as we expand the duration, then we can reduce the number of the sessions, And so that is another advice. Uh, so when you use the Buddha's image as the object of meditative concentration, like regardless of what object you use for meditation concentration, the two main interference or obstacles to have a good concentrations or shamatha, karma abiding, is what we call, excitement and distraction and laxity, two things, Sometimes it is translated laxity, sometimes it's translated dullness. I guess, and I don't know what other translations. Those are two that I see, different translations. In Tibetan, it's called Qinghua. That is that one is obstacle to have the clarity. Okay? When your mind is dull, or in the when your mind is dull or in the laxity, even you don't lose the object of meditations, but there's no clarity. Okay? So in order to have clarity, your mind should be free from that dullness, laxity. So that laxity or dullness is one of the obstacles to develop Kamabani Shamatha. The other one is the excitement and distractions, And that one is, either your mind gets distracted by other thoughts, other objects, other feelings, so then you lose the objects, So then instead of your mind being able to hold the image of Buddha, now you have started thinking what to cook tomorrow, what to have breakfast for tomorrow. So when your mind is in that state, your mind is not there with the object image, So your mind, you have lost the objects. So your mind has get distracted, So that is that is the obstacles to have the stability, the stillness, steadiness. Sometimes your mind is not totally lost, It's like you haven't lost the objects, but one side of the object, while one side of your mind is holding the object, from another side of your mind is starting getting distracted. So you haven't lost the object, but you are not fully there. I give you an example, if I see one person, this is just in terms of our I sense consciousness. We're talking, this is not talking about mental consciousness. When you talk about shamatha, we're talking about mental consciousness. But just to give you an example, with the I sense consciousness, someone coming, okay? Let's say I'm looking at this screen. Then I see someone coming there, okay? And then I follow where that person's going. And then after some time, I don't see the screen anymore because that person went that way and I was following that. That's when you lose the object completely. Do you get it? In that cases, you lose the object completely. You lose the screen completely. That is like very gross level of distractions. When you really completely lose the object of your attention, your meditations. But in other cases, I didn't lose. While I'm aware, I'm seeing the screen. At the same time, my mind is also following that person. My mind is doing two things. Do you get it? It is looking at the screen. It hasn't lost the screen. At the same time, it's also following that person's. So in that cases, I'm not fully with the screen, the objects. It's like kind of almost like two-minded. So in that case, you don't lose the object, but you are not fully there. It is still distractions. It's certain level of distractions. It's certain level of distractions. And most subtle level of distraction is that your mind is not even two-minded, like just like that. You are while you are holding the object, but at the same time, you are doing something else with your mind. But your mind is, ready to get in next moment. Your mind is almost ready to get distracted. Your mind is not steady, stable. It has become a little bit vulnerable to get distracted this very, very soon. And when your mind is that state, even you are not distracted at the moment completely, but your mind is you are not sleepy, but you are in few moments you are going to get sleep. Similarly, your mind is not truly distracted, but you're in the state of mind where you could be distracted any moment in that. That is the most subtle distraction, most subtle. And so when you achieve shamatha and when you overcome all these kind of gross, subtle, most subtle level of distractions, then there is no dangers of being distracted from you. Not only you don't lose the objects, not only you don't get distracted in that way you lose, you don't even get your mind like two-minded, or that your mind is fully there. Not only your mind is fully there, but in such that so strong, there is no danger of getting distracted for next many hours if you decide to just meditate on. For many hours, there's no danger of getting distracted because your concentration has become so strong. And so, that, and then in terms of, as I mentioned, laxity, of course, when you are really feeling kind of sleepy, then that is really, really very gross level laxity. Even you are not feeling sleepy, but your mind is a little bit dull, your mind is a little feeling dull, and there is no clarity, that is a gross level of, laxity. One of the other obstacles, there's no clarity at all, yeah. Mm. Mm. And then most subtle level, like in some of the meditations that sometimes they explain gross and subtle, and in some they explain three level, and then subtle level of the laxity is there's a clarity, but there's no intensity. There's clarity, but there's no intensity. So it is like, I'm holding the cup, but I'm not holding tightly, so then I can drop anytime. So intensity not there, so therefore you could fall into the laxity easily. or unclarity or dullness very clear easily or soon. So that is what, not only you need the clarity, but you need the intensity. And more subtle level of the laxity, as His Holiness Lama explained, is, in that case, there is clarity, there's intensity, but you are starting to lose the clarity or intensity a little bit. You haven't completely lost intensity, you haven't completely lost the clarity, but you are starting to lose a little bit, and then that is, and as Lama Tsongkhapa says, even some of the meditators have mistaken that laxity, more subtle laxity to be good meditations. Because there's clarity, there's stability. Because there's stability, your mind is able to hold the object so strong with the steadiness, stability. Not only that, you also have very clarity with that. Also there's clarity. But again, and someone who have that, of course, we haven't reached that state. Otherwise, those who have reached that state, they can meditate for hours and maybe day without losing the objects and with the clarity. And in their cases, what they are missing is the intensity, or the intensity is not so strong, and so that are those. So need to overcome all of that, those two obstacles, laxity and regardless what object you choose for your meditations, overcome the laxity and distractions. And the antidote is mindfulness, introspections. Mindfulness help you to keep your mind to the objects, not losing the objects. So it helps you from distractions, it helps you from being distracted. Because of your mindfulness, you are able to hold your objects without losing it, always there, And then introspections, it would help you whether you are falling laxity or distraction, or whether there's danger of distractions, whether there's danger of laxities. So it helps you to be aware of that, whether you are actually distracted or not, whether you are falling dullness or not, or whether there's a danger of falling dullness or not, whether there's a danger of falling in a distraction or not. So it helps you to be aware of that through the introspections. And then if there's dullness, if there's or distraction coming, then you try to apply whatever antidote that is needed to overcome that. So here, in terms of our using the Buddha's image as an object of concentrations, when there is little dullness, whenever you feel there is little dullness, then, you try to, one way to overcome that is try to brightening the image, make it more brightening, And when it's more brightening, even though there's little light before with that image, as we mentioned, we try to visualize the Buddha with more with the light. You can visualize, imagine the light getting more brighter and brighter of that Buddha, And when you see with that, then it is like wakening up, from that dullness, from being too dull. you know. The danger is if you brighten too much, so that is where the balance comes. If you try to brighten too much, then there's a danger of being distracted, you know. Even by brightening that, if it doesn't help, then you go more details of that, the Buddha's image. When you are feeling a little bit, dullness, your mind is feeling a little dull, feeling like not alert and dull and laxity, and almost feel like you might fall asleep, or even you are not falling asleep, a little bit dull. You try to brightening up the image. It might help. It will help. If it doesn't help, then you try to go all details of like the where you started at the very beginning of the session. Then you go into all the details of the Buddhas, or what it looked like, or the Ushnisha and the head and the face, and again scan and go in detail. And that going in that detail again awake your minds from that dullness, help you to be more alert, more awake. So that can be helpful to free from that dullness, going in more details or brightening up, like that. And if we feel like, we are getting distracted, one method of that is, try to withdraw your mind. When you expand your mind, you are more likely to get distracted. When you withdraw your mind, and then you have less danger of distractions. And in this relation, how we can do is trying to visualize the Buddha's image even more smaller. When you imagine the smaller, your mind get more and more withdrawn into that small image. That's one way. When you want to expand, then you can expand that image getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then as big, so big, your mind started to expand a lot, But again, as I mentioned, there's the danger of so how much we withdraw our mind, how much we expand our mind is the key in developing shamatha, In some time it is said, we need to put effort when you are lazy. When we are being lazy in our practice meditations, we need to push ourselves a little bit by putting effort. But if you put too much effort, then again it can be a distraction. It can be distracted. So then knowing the balance is the key. So when you're pushing yourself too much, then we need to relax. So it is a balance between pushing and resting or relax. Knowing when you need to relax and knowing when you need to push. When we need to be pushed with a little bit of more effort, knowing when we need to exert more effort. And when we need to relax, knowing when we need to rest and relax, not physically on that practice, meditation. And that is finding that balance is the most difficult, and also that's the key to develop the meditation concentration in shamatha. And Buddha gave examples of, there's a musical instrument, I guess in India they call sitara, is like similar like, guitar, and so they said, in order to the best sound from that, if it is too tight, the sound is not so good. If it's too loose, it's not so good, the sound. To have the best sound, it has to be the right, where it is not too tight or not too loose, exact tightness. And that is the way the real good musicians will know how to do that, knowing that if I type a little bit too much, then the sound will not come best. If I lose too much, then knowing exactly, and that is also same in the meditations, to find, to be able to achieve that kind of meditative concentrations, and that to find that balance, the balance. And Santa called me, Lubin Santa called me, Abasha Gosha, as he said, Shamatha is very difficult to develop, he said. When you try to exert effort, you get distracted. When you try to relax, then you fall into the laxity, dullness, and to find the middle exact seems to be difficult. And so that is where, and that is also one of the Lama Tsongkhapa's, advice. Because sometimes I think some others says, the more relaxed you are, or more you relax, the better meditations. The more better meditation. But Lama Tsongkhapa says, you need to know when to relax and when to exert. It's just relaxing completely is not the best way. In Tibetan, there's Sherpa Rab, Gomba Rab in some teachings. The more you relax, the more better your meditation is. There's in some teachings, in some that, but again, that is only when you have reached certain point. So if we relax and if we don't exert effort at the very beginning, when we have not achieved it, it doesn't work that way. So that is finding when we need to exert effort with food, and when we need to relax, we relax, and finding that balance is key. And same here when we are using the Buddha's image. If you go too much in the details and if we try to make it bigger and bigger in order to overcome the dullness, because you are feeling dull, and then by brightening up, it can awake you up, your mind awake up from that dullness. By going details, it can awake up your mind because your mind become active. Now your mind become active when you start to go all the details, or when you started to visualize it as more bigger and bigger, or with a more light and light, your mind started to become active, more active. When there is more active, again, there's danger of excitement or distractions. So again, knowing how much you need to go further in terms of that. And so individually, this is something that we individually will learn how to do that, And as when it's dealing with the distraction, as I was saying, when your mind is expanding too much, then distraction comes. So you need to withdraw the mind. And in here, one way of withdrawing the mind is to imagine, visualize that image smaller, 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 smaller. The more smaller you go, your mind withdraw more and more towards that objects, which is very small. And then when you are that, then it can also help you from being distracted or excited. So those are certain small method that you can utilize to overcome the distractions and dullness. And sometimes the dullness and distraction are so gross, even with such, you might not be able to do that. And then in those times, sometimes you need to change the object of your meditation for a little while. Maybe your anger is so strong, you cannot concentrate. Maybe because your attachment is so strong, you cannot concentrate. So your mind is distracted by strong attachment or strong anger or whatever. And because you cannot concentrate because it's so strong, then for a certain period, you do need to do some analytical meditation to reduce that strong attachment, that strong anger. And once that, through whatever different analytical meditations, you are able to bring down that attachment or anger. And when your mind is a little bit more calm, then again, you go back to the concentrations, that part. Sometimes we need to do that when the distraction is so strong. And sometimes it's so bad, you might just need to get up, take some, fresh water, flash yourself, get some, wind, go and just walk a little bit, take some breath, fresh air. Sometimes we might have to for a short period, and you walk a little bit, have a little fresh air, and once you are done, and then I can come back and sit on the cushions. So it depends on level of how bad those distraction laxity or what kind of antidote that one can apply, depending on the level of that. So those are some of the advice you find in the teachings, that I've heard, that I have read, that I have received, so those are some of the advice that we can use for that. So I think that's all. That is how we can use the Buddha's image or visualizations or Buddha's image as the object of concentration, how to develop concentration by using that. And that is more kind of common for both Sutra and Mahayana Sutra and Tantra, But like in Vajrayana Tantra, they can also use the self-generation, yourself as a deity, and you just focus on that. That is also, instead of in front of you, you visualize yourself as whatever Buddha or deities that you have initiation, and then just keeping that in the same way, but keeping that image yourself as a deity, that is also possible. Okay, so that is all. If anyone has any questions, you're most welcome. Any questions? If not, then we can do the dedications.
So sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Yes.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you so much. So one question comes to mind, and that is, so you mentioned that, and if some people have heard they have problems with the image moving around, like dancing around, or like being very, 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 very interactive. Like you said, you should think that this is the real Buddha, the present, right? Not like a statue. So I don't have that problem, but I'm wondering about not just a visual focus on the visual aspect of it, but also on what's the advice for doing things like meditating on the meaning? Like, for example, some of the Buddha's marks and signs have specific meanings associated with them, or doing Lam Rim, combining Lam Rim with a visualization like that.
No, if you are not trying to develop shamatha, then it's okay. Then it's better. It's great that you use that in your. If you are using general visualization or retreat, if you are doing different daily retreat or other things, then you can combine Lam Rim meditation in relation to that, and within the Lam Rim you can focus on certain topic, or you can do all, you can focus on emptiness, you integrate emptiness with that daily practice, or bodhicitta or refuge or guru yoga, whatever different, depending on how you want to do it or what you want, or you want to focus on. But here, what we are talking is if you are trying to develop a shamatha, by using that, then if you start doing those, whether it's a meaning of all of this mark, measure, and all this lumbering, then it's excitement. We
Okay.
did that in Enwa and Goba, Enwa is distractions. Goba is, even is a virtues, such as you are meditating on lumbering thing, is a virtues thought, but still it's an obstacle for developing shamatha.
Got it.
So that is why when you're trying to develop shamatha, then that becomes obstacle. But if you are not trying to develop shamatha, but if you are really just to improve your concentration a little bit, and then using it as visualizations, reciting mantras, the daily practice, then you can combine those. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Emily, go ahead.
Oh, yes. I just really appreciated the analogy with the strings on a stringed instrument. If it's too loose, it just goes plonk, and if it's too tight, it goes ding.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could really understand that, and thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, then we still have time if you want to, if anyone has any questions. Couple of minutes.
Okay. Geshe, can I ask
Yes,
a question?
yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
when we're doing like a deity practice, such as Chenrezig or Tara or something, can we do that from within that practice, develop shamatha, or is it only when we visualize in front of us?
You can do it, but I think it's easier if you visualize in front of you in smaller image, and that is more easier to develop shamatha than when you visualize big and in the space above you. The way our mind works is is easy to get distracted because we are is like we are not looking with our eyes senses, but our mind works so is high. It feel like you have to look up. Your eyes have to look up. In similar, our mind seems to go up, and so that can be kind of more easy to fall into distractions. But when you're just same level that you are as looking to develop concentration, I think it is a more easier doing that way. But of course, for some people, maybe they might not have difficulty, But in general, that is the advice, And I can see sometimes the way my mind works, if I'm visualizing kind of above in the front, the mind seems to be a little bit too uplifting, not so balanced, too uplifting. And that is where finding the balance is your mind should be stable, not too uplifting, not too low, When you are too low, then we have the dullness. Let's say when our mind is too uplifted, then there is a danger of excitement and distractions. And sometimes that seems to be a little bit of there's some relation with that. Okay, then we can do the dedications and
Are you scrolling up a little bit?
Let me see.
Yeah, you want to do, you can do the just dedication, yeah. May all beings everywhere plagued by the suffering of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or even fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depressions. May the blind see form and the deaf hear sound. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing. The hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth. Those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicine be effective and wholesome. Prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightening cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, or as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Protector of the beings and the teaching of the lands of the snow, who makes the path that unified emptiness and compassion even more clear, to the Tenzin Gyatso, holder of the lotus, I make request, may the aim of your wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Okay, today maybe we can, and okay, I can maybe, peerless teachers and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Savaka and Pratika Buddhas, victorious Lord and Father and Son, along with the lineage masters, all the object of refuge of infinite land, please bestow the virtues and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teaching through the explanation and practice. You owe the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of victorious one teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for all mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessing of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of both Chitta of children of victorious one, may the smile of reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for the fortunate disciples. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much,
See you
Geshe Sherab.
tomorrow. Good night.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
And here's a brief message from our sponsor, Generosity. That's not what I wanted to share. Here, there we go. Oh, it's not working.
Next time. Next time.
Oh, well.